Okay, so we are still looking at circles. We were looking at circles in our last section, but now we're looking at area. So area of the whole circle and the area just of a chunk of the circle, which is called a sector, like shaped like a piece of pie or a piece of pizza. So first of all, our first formula is pi r squared, which is going to give you the area of a circle. So if we want the area of a circle that has a radius of 10, and we're looking for two answers. So let's show where we want the exact. So we would have area equals pi r squared, area equals pi, and then we throw the radius in there. Now if we want it exact, that means we're not rounding at all. So that means we cannot multiply by pi. Okay, so pi is just going to go on the end of our answer. So 10 squared is 100. And we've got 100 pi would be the exact area, okay, because we didn't have to round it off. Now if we want the approximate, the only difference is that at the end we're actually going to multiply by pi. So we've got pi r squared, pi 10 squared, and this one would be when we round, it's 0.16. And there's no units on there, so we don't need to put units on our answer. Okay. All right, let's try this one. So we have two different pies. One has a 12-inch diameter, the other one is smaller with 8 inches. How much more pi is the larger one? So how much more area is there of pi? So we're going to keep this in terms of pi. So we'll do the bigger one first. Okay, so we got a equals pi r squared. The bigger one had a radius of, is it 6 or 12? It's 6 because the diameter was 12. Okay, so this one will be 36 pi. And then the smaller one, nope, I have to use the radius. So this one we've got pi r squared. What's the radius on this one? 4. So we got 16 pi on this one. So how much more pi is the bigger one? Should be writing this down.
20 pi.
20 pi. We just subtract the 2. Inches squared. Okie dokie. This one, area of a circle is 74 inches squared. So now we have the area, and we're going to work backwards. We still have our 3 lines of work though, so we start with our formula. So we got a equals pi r squared, but now we know the area, so the numbers we put in are actually going to be the area on the left. Now we solve for r. So how are we going to do that? So what's that?
23.554.
5 what?
5.
554?
Yeah.
Okay. What's the last step? Square root it. So what do we get there?
4.85.
Okay, now is this the answer? No, we need the diameter, so we do what? Yeah, we just times that by 2. And we get what? Questions on the area of a circle? All right, so let's move on. So now we're going to focus on this shape, which is called a sector. So it's bounded by 2 radii. That's the plural form for radius. So here's one radius, here's the other radius, and then the arc of the circle. Okay, so our formula is actually pretty similar to what we learned in our last section. On the end, excuse me, we simply have pi r squared instead of 2 pi r. That's the only difference. Okay, so we still need the 2 things, which are the angle measure and the radius. So looking at this one right here, Looks like they've given us the radius, and then the measure of this arc right here is 240. So we want this angle, right? How big is that? That is a 120 degree angle. Subtract from 360. All right, so we have AS, which stands for area of the sector. And then we'll write our formula. Measure of AB over 360 pi r squared. Okay, so we'll put in our two numbers, which are the angle measure. You told me that's 120. And the radius. And now we can put this whole entire thing in the calculator at once. So I want a bunch of you to do it just to make sure we get the same number.
26.179.
Okay. Agree?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll shorten that up. No units, so we don't need units on our answer. So it's pretty similar to yesterday's formula. We just have to be making sure that we have our 3 lines of work so it's clear to see what direction you're going.
Wait, what is AS?
Area of the sector. All right. So let's do this one. Same thing. Area of the sector. Measure of the arc over 360 pi r squared. So our two numbers, 51 and 7. What's the calculator say for that one?
21.8.
Others?
Yep.
Okay. Meters squared. All right, now we are going to try a couple where we have to work backwards. Okay. But first of all, let's look at what question they're asking. Find the area of the entire circle. How do you find the area of the entire circle? What's the formula for that? Area equals pi r squared. So the one piece of information we need is the radius. And we don't have the radius, but we can find it. Okay, so let's put an X there because that's what we're solving for. They've given us the area of the sector. So let's start out with that formula. Area of the sector. Measure of AB over 360 pi r squared. So let's put in what we do know. What do we know? Do we know AS? Do we know the area of the sector?
Oh yeah, 25.
25. Okay, so we'll go 25 equals. Do we know the angle? Okay. And then our radius we can just leave as x. So in this situation, I highly recommend just punching this part into the calculator so we know what the coefficient is in front of x. And let's keep a lot of decimals on that number for now until we get to the end. So like 4 numbers after the decimal.
Zero 0.4188.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so all we did was punch the red rectangle, that number, in. And now how do we get x by itself a little bit more? Yep, so we'll divide by this number. So now we have x squared equals
59.694.
okay, and then the last step. Square root it, yep. That's our radius. So 7.7? Okay, so we have the radius now. Are we able to answer the question that they asked? Yes. Okay, so we have pi r squared. All we need to do is put that 7.7 in that we found, and we have our area of the circle.
$186.265.
Everyone else getting the same numbers through the whole process? Okay. Ready for the last one? Okay. So this is almost identical to the test question that I'm going to give you. All that's different are these two numbers right here. Okay, so you're going to want to know this process for sure. Okay, so I've given you two things, the area of the whole circle and the area of the shaded region. So what helps us is to put the formulas of those objects right here. So area of the whole circle is 104. Area of the sector we know is 36, because we're going to end up using both of these, okay, in these three steps. So first we want to find the radius. Which of those two equations would be easier to find the radius? Pi r squared, because it's a shorter formula, okay? So if we start with area equals pi r squared, do we know the area of the circle? Yes, it's 104. Okay, so we got 104 equals pi r squared. How do we solve for r? Okay, so we got our,
33.104.
okay, and then the last step. Square root that thing. What is the radius? Okay, so we can just throw that right on the picture right here. We know the radius is 5.75, so we can use that when we're answering this next question right here. Find the angle measure, the measure of AC. Okay, so now we want to know how many degrees is right here. Well, which formula would tell us that? The top one or the bottom one? The bottom one, okay? So we'll start there. There's not a lot of room here, so I'm going to move it over here. So we've got area of the sector, pi r squared. So what do we know in this equation? We know the area of the sector is 36, okay, so we'll put that there. We don't know the angle, that's what we're looking for, so we'll put an X there. And we just figured out that the radius is 5.75. Okay, so help me out with some of these numbers here. I want to know what this is. 0.868?
Yeah.
Okay, how can we get X by itself a little more? Yeah, we could multiply by 360. That'll cancel this one out. Multiply this one by 360. What's this over here? 12,000. I didn't hear the last part. 960. Okay. So the only thing left over here is this 103.868 and an X. So we only have one step left. Divide. So when we divide both sides, what do we get? Okay. My timer is about to run out, so we're going to quickly do this. So the length of the arc is using yesterday's formula, now that we have all of our information. So we're going to put the angle here, we're going to put the radius here, and we're going to find our answer. So we're going to do that even though the timer is going to run out.